ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Global Village. I'm your host, Buddy Kunanan. Now, this show takes you on a virtual ride around the world, takes you to many interesting places, and you meet a lot of amazing people and learn about their culture and heritage. We also focus on the Filipinos' connectivity to the world, in the hope that we can show you that we Filipinos are members of a global community. Now, last week we had part one of our Amazing Austria special. We had Dr. Christian Trauweger, the Honorary Consul of the Philippines in Tyrol, Austria. Talked about some relations. We also had a very nice cooking demonstration of fine Austrian cuisine with Miss Nina Eger and her colleague Leah. And tonight, our special on Austria continues with Amazing Austria Part 2. And joining us still is Dr. Trauweger, Christian, my very good friend, Honorary Consul of Philippines in Tyrol, and we're going to talk about ties between the Philippines and Austria. We're going to talk about Austrian culture, music, and a lot of other fun stuff.
Correct.
So, Christian, good evening. Welcome again to the show. And for people who are just tuning in now and watching you for the first time, who is Dr. Christian Trauweger?
I'm actually a professor at the University of Innsbruck, teaching applied statistics in political science. And this is my main profession. Beside that, as you said and mentioned, I am Honorary Consul of the Philippines by heart, representing the Philippines in Austria as good as I can.
How long have you been, this relationship of yours with the Philippines is both official and personal. When did you first start coming here?
Actually, it was 18 years ago. I came first here to discover the universities, especially UP Diliman and San Carlos in Cebu. Then we started academic programs, and based on that, we did some social things and invited choirs coming to Austria. And then in 2005, I was appointed as an honorary consul.
And I want to congratulate you on a job well done. I mean, you really have been breaking a lot of new ground and really blazing the trail in many ways for Philippine-Austrian relations, which is what we're going to talk about now.
That's correct. I mean, when I think of my students, and I'm bringing to the Philippines students since almost 17 years, they are all marketing the Philippines abroad. And that's the best that can happen.
Absolutely. It's really about people-to-people exchanges and contact, and that's how you really form the basis of good relations.
Correct.
Between two countries.
That's correct, but it actually started long time ago.
Okay, very interesting. Let's talk about the historical aspect of Philippine-Austrian relationship. And I know these relations have gone back a long time now.
That's true. I mean, actually it goes back to 1871, when Austria was still part of the Austria-Hungarian Reich. At that time, they opened an honorary consulate in Manila. So this was the first diplomatic representation here in Manila. But then, later on, of course, the ties between Philippines and Austria became more stronger under the time of Dr. José Rizal, your national hero. We always compare it with our Andreas Hofer in Tyrol. He was also our national hero, but of course much more important was Dr. José Rizal, who was really and lost his life for the independence of the Philippines. And his best friend, as everybody in the Philippines know, is Professor Ferdinand Blumentritt, who at that time came from Austria.
Okay, it's interesting because I know the Czechs and the Austrians are both claiming Herr Blumentritt as one of their own. And tell us a bit about this tug of war that's happening now, so to speak, between the Czech Republic and
At that time, Leitmeritz, where Professor Blumentritt came from, belonged to Austria. This is just historically true, and there's no doubt about it. But nowadays, of course, Czech Republic is his own country, and Austria is an own country, independent country. So from this point, Leitmeritz now is in the Czech Republic. But at the time when Blumentritt still was living, it was part of Austria. And Ferdinand Blumentritt was, as you know, a big supporter of the ideas and the fight for independence of Dr. José Rizal. And Rizal was a couple of times in Europe. He spoke fluently German, while unfortunately Blumentritt never came to the Philippines. Yeah. He didn't like to travel that much. So he stayed more or less in Europe, and that's where they met. And beside that, Rizal spoke fluently German. Blumentritt was the one who translated his novels into German.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And there was a book published a couple of years ago. Actually, it was in the 1980, our chancellor at that time, Dr. Bruno Kreisky, he was the first and only chancellor that visited the Philippines from the Austrian side. He came to the Philippines and visited Ferdinand Marcos at that time. Yeah. And his press officer was the guy, his name was Sichowski. And so they were driving around in Manila, and Kreisky was...
He saw the name Blumentritt.
He saw the name Blumentritt. So he asked his press officer, this name sounds actually Austrian, so find out who this guy was. And so he found out, he researched the history, he found out that there was a very famous person behind the national hero of the Philippines, and he was at that time Austrian. And I brought you that book, you know it of course, but this is the Blumentritt and Rizal. So it says it's the Austrian friend behind the Philippine national hero, Professor Ferdinand Blumentritt. And it was published by Professor Sichowski. And a few years ago, the son of Sichowski published a second edition of that book.
Yes, yes.
And to continue with the ties, because there are still more and more ties when it comes to Blumentritt. Blumentritt had 3 children. And one of the children's name was Konrad Blumentritt, and the grandson was Kurt Blumentritt.
Yes.
And his son, the great-grandson of Ferdinand Blumentritt, is Urban Blumentritt, and he still lives in Austria, about 30 minutes away from Innsbruck, and he's operating a stone carving business. He's also a painter, and he painted a very nice painting on the occasion of the 105th birthday of Dr. Jose Rizal.
Yes, yes.
And I was able to bring it to the Yushchenko Museum for that occasion. So he's still alive, and he's aware of how famous actually his great-grandfather is in the Philippines.
Absolutely. And, really, Ferdinand Blumentritt really played a significant role, a pivotal role in the life of Jose Rizal. As you mentioned, I think he was the one who really influenced Dr. Rizal, Jose Rizal, to write these books that really became, seminal works, basically.
Definitely, it was definitely a milestone, I would say, on the path getting independent from the Spaniards at that time. So there was a lot of efforts in forcing and encouraging Dr. Rizal to continue with his efforts, no matter if he pays it with his life or not.
And Dr. Jose Rizal was exiled for a brief period in the southern Philippines, and I understand that Ferdinand Blumentritt wrote letters to Rizal, and these were really a source of inspiration for.
Yeah, never to step his
Rizal.
efforts, correct.
Yes.
So this was very important for the history actually of the Philippines, and we are very proud of that, and we are proud that our Chancellor came to the Philippines, and at least somebody from the Austrian side was acknowledging the life of Blumentritt in publishing this book. And when I mentioned that Kreisky came to the Philippines in 1980 as the only chancellor that visited Austria, there was also only one president of the Philippines that visited Austria.
That's interesting, Christian. No? Why is it that, clearly the two countries have very close ties, historical ties, a lot of Filipinos in Austria, a lot of Austrians here, very active in the Philippines. You are one of them, actually. So why is it on an official level, the last chancellor to come over here was so many years ago, and the only president was the late President Marcos to ever visit Austria, an official visit?
It was Ramos that visited Austria in 1997.
Yeah.
And it was Kreisky,
okay.
Yeah, and Kreisky in 1980 to coming to the Philippines.
Yes, yeah.
Beside those two chancellors, there were a few visits on secretary level, but only a few. There are more from the Philippines coming to Austria, I have to admit, and I'm very proud of that. So we are, of course, always informed when there is a secretary or undersecretary visiting Austria, and I myself invited once Undersecretary and Secretary Durano with Undersecretary Harke to visit Tyrol, and they came to visit our wonderful place in the western part of Austria, and then we signed a memorandum on tourism. When it comes to bilateral relation between the two countries, there are about 2 bilateral treaties signed between 1974 and 2004.
Yes.
Different content, of course, which I am not so familiar with, but it could be more, frankly spoken. But we are a small country, as you know, and maybe that plays also a sort of role in the relation. I mean, we only have 8 million people, while the Philippines are 101 million people.
Yes, but you're an economic powerhouse, and definitely a cultural powerhouse at that.
Definitely a powerhouse when it comes to economy and when it comes to culture.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about this exchange between Philippines and Austria, I think I have also to mention that the Philippines were the first that started an official mission in Austria. It was 1973 when they opened an embassy in Vienna.
Yes.
And 1980 the first embassy of Austria was opened in Manila.
So speaking about missions, a very prominent Filipino has been an honorary representative of Austria for a very long time. No other than
Washington DC.
Yes.
We are very proud to have him as a consul general, and I have to say, I think he's the oldest consul general around the world. He's now 95 plus, a little, I think,
yes.
96, turning 96 this year.
Amazing.
So, and his connections and his life and everything is, we are really proud of him, to have him as a part of the Austrian history here in Manila.
Well,
He's to me, excuse me,
Yes.
he's to me the Philippine icon of the economy of the Philippines.
Absolutely, his role in over so many decades,
Exactly.
helping the Filipino economy grow and helping businesses prosper is the stuff of legend already.
correct.
Now, how about in terms of improving ties? And as you said, on the highest level, there haven't been much exchanges, but many exchanges on the lower levels of government. What are the plans, let's say, in your office, in your part of Austria? What are the plans to let's say, bring the two countries close together, work together, etc.?
I mean, when we have meetings with the Philippine embassy in Vienna, the honorary consuls, the embassy always tries to encourage us to bring more investors from Austria to the Philippines. That's what we work actually on. We are looking for entrepreneurs, for people that are interested to invest in the Philippines. For a couple of years, we had private people, they bought condominiums, so that's also a sort of investment in the Philippines,
Yes.
on a different level, of course. And different people from the Philippines came to Austria to promote their projects, their condominiums, and they sold quite a lot in Austria.
Yeah.
They were traveling throughout Europe in general, but in Austria they sold quite a lot of them. And on the other hand, there are, of course, people from the Philippines, entrepreneurs, visiting Austria and try to promote their products. And maybe there will be a day where we still work even on sports base or something, that we bring up these two countries together.
A lot of possibilities, but on the macro level, there really I'm aware that there are two big Austrian companies doing business here. Let's name them quickly.
It would be Andritz.
Yes, which is involved in hydropower.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the new company, it was the years before Wagner Biro, but now it's the company Huber that is going to promote building bridges in the Philippines.
And this company has made over 200 or 300 bridges all over the country already.
Actually, it was 440 bridges.
440
already in the
bridges,
Philippines.
imagine that, all over the
That's
Philippines.
a large number, and I mean, these are really economic drivers in the Philippines. And besides that, we have many other companies like Alpla. They are producing plastic bottles for companies, and they have filling stations here in the Philippines. And we just had a talk to the CEO from Alpla here in the Philippines, Magister Ara, who invited us for an evening in the German club with our students.
Very good, very good, and very inspiring that we have over 400 bridges here, Austrian made, and so it's all about building bridges, connecting people. And again, I want to congratulate you on a job well done, Consul Christian Trauweger, for representing the Philippines with distinction and a great pride and great honor in your section and in your part of Austria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy, for being on your show, Global Village.
Thank you, sir. So guys, stick around because more of Global Village and Amazing Austria when we return.